The following is a presentation of the Six Arrows Radio Network.
Ham Radio 360 podcast. YouTube sensation survival tech nord. We're going outside with the radios. Stay tuned.
MTCRadio.com presents Ham Radio 360, the podcast. Brought to you by Elecraft. Now, here's your host, Kel Nelson, K4CDN.
It is another episode of Ham Radio 360, the podcast. Welcome into the program. So excited to have you here. We do this every week nowadays, and it's either the Workbench Show with George and Jeremy or myself, and we just kind of play ping pong back and forth. And this week is, that's right, Ham Radio 360, the podcast. My name is Kel Nelson, and my call is Kilo 4 Charlie, Delta November. If you will, please indulge me for just a moment as I celebrate with quite a bit of exuberance the fact that we just have surpassed over 500,000 downloads of the Ham Radio 360 show. Now, this has been going on for quite some time. I mean, we're almost 36 months into the program, which is, well, that really wasn't supposed to happen either. So that's kind of a shocker. And we brought Workbench in last year at Dayton. So just right after the Hamvention, we started with the Workbench program, and we've just been growing ever since. Hamvention was tremendous for us last year regarding growth of the program, and it's coming up in just a matter of weeks. We're really excited about it, as well as being really excited of reaching the mark of 500,000 plus downloads. Now, I don't say that braggingly. I don't say that to try to build ourselves up or, we're bigger than someone else, we're smaller than others. That's not what it is. It's just a milestone here in what we're doing, the podcasting thing, and we're just excited about it. But we know a couple of things about being here at the 500,000 plus download mark. We know that if it were not for the listener, you right now, the guy with the headphones on, you might be on the treadmill, you may be driving in the car, you could be on the lawnmower, whatever. We know that we wouldn't be here if you weren't listening every time we release a show. So our sincere thanks to everyone. We are totally stoked to have reached this point. We're looking forward to 500,000 more downloads as we continue doing this thing. Ham Radio 360, the podcast, and the Workbench Show as well. So big thank you. If this is your first time, hey, welcome in. As I said, we've been downloaded over 500,000 times, which is pretty cool now. And we do this every other week. This is the conversational type show, whereas we also have a real deep tech show that you'll find next week or back on the website, hamradio360.com, in the Workbench section there. So we have a lot of stuff going on here, getting ready for Hamvention, and really excited about that. I got the booths over in the tent, Building 6, I believe they're calling it. And, well, I'm going to get to drive up this year, so I don't have to fly. It's going to be really cool, and it's really exciting. If you can make Hamvention, make plans to be there. If you can't, that's okay. We're going to be there. We're going to be connecting with the movers, the shakers, and the whatnotters inside the whole convention, and we'll be sharing those things with you, hopefully on a daily basis like we did last year, just depending on what goes down at the show. That's our intent, at least that's our plan. So really looking forward to that, catching up with you, catching up with some other content creators here in the ham radio sphere, and it's just going to be a great time. So be on the lookout. We got a Hamvention show coming up pretty soon too, so don't miss out that it's on the way. Well, it looks like Main Trading Company has a brand new trailer this year. It won't be the 32 feet of ham radio love, but it will be the 28 feet of ham radio love, and they're coming all the way from Texas to Xenia, Ohio, to bring you the absolute best deals on ham radio gear. Now, they've got it online, right? They've got a website, mtcradio.com, that you can visit right now and get some amazing deals. If you're not going to be at Hamvention, but you're really wanting one of those ICOM IC7300s, the one that kind of just set the world on fire last year at Hamvention, well, they've got them in stock now, and they're shipping them, as well as ICOM repacks. So if you're looking for some ICOM gear, continue to refer you to my dear friends. And really, they are friends. I don't just say that. We're buddies, right? Go check them out, mtcradio.com. Let Richard, Christine, Tammy, Stephen, Chris, and Danielle know that Kel sent you. Really appreciate you doing business with them. Give them a call. Get the best deal. It's mtcradio.com. All right, so it's been just a little while for this conversation to happen. And guys, I got to tell you, I'm very excited. I know you will be too. This is one of mine and your favorite YouTube celebrities. I'm saying that with the air quotes flying around because, we'll give that to somebody. Julian, who is Oscar Hotel 8 Sierra Tango November. You may know him as a survival tech nerd on YouTube. Julian, thank you so much for coming into the Ham Radio 360 podcast.
Thank you, Kel. It's actually a pleasure to be here.
Man, we are excited to have you here. I got to give a big shout out real quick to my buddy Andy, who is KK4 Uniform Charlie Grande. He first initiated me into the STN YouTube channel and was quite instrumental in having me watch your shows when I can. And, like everybody wants to know, how in the world and why in the world was it ham radio for you? How did you get here?
This is going to be a long story, but I'll tell you quickly. It started in the 70s, actually. I wasn't licensed until 1999, but the seed for ham radio was planted back in the 70s, and it happened when I did something my mother told me not to do, and she took away my television. It was absolutely the best thing that could have happened to me in my life. She took away my television, and she says, well, you can't watch TV anymore. And I guess what? Back in those days, there was Gilligan's Island or whatever. But I actually started to listen to the radio. And a friend of mine down the street was a ham radio operator. And he noticed that I was putting up an antenna on my roof for my AM radio back in those days. And one day on my way from school, he stopped me and he says, what are you doing up there on the roof? What are you trying to do? And I said, well, I'm putting up an antenna for my radio. And actually, he gave me two old General Electric radios. And he says that both of these are broken, but with the parts from one or the other, you can make one working radio. And that's how it all got started. And I started listening to ABC and Canadian Broadcasting, BBC World Service, and Swedish radio, and all sorts of shortwave broadcasters around the world, just with that handset that Paul gave me. And, of course, there was the military and career and things like that, but it wasn't until 1999 when I got settled down again, about 20 years later, that I said, okay, now it's time to get licensed and go for it. And that's the short of it. That's how it all got started.
It's so funny how we don't really think about, as we're adults, I guess, we're not really thinking about nieces, nephews, kids we come in contact with, maybe the kid that lives next door that wants to cut our grass every week. How we can put into these guys and gals if we'll just slow down for just a minute and maybe see if there's a potential there. I know for me, I'll never forget, I got a set of those 9-volt walkie-talkies years ago as a kid, and my dad worked for Southern Bell at the time, and for some reason we took a metal trash can lid. I've never told this story, but I've never forgotten it either. We took a metal trash can lid, and my dad always had what they called cross connect that they use. It was a really fine, probably like a 22 gauge wire, solid copper wire that they used at the telephone office he worked in, and he always had this just laying around. And my brother and I just wound this stuff all over in like a cross pattern over the top of this trash can lid, thinking that it would increase our transmitting capacity for our, eighth of a watt walkie-talkie that was on whatever 27 megahertz. I don't even know, but it was terrible. It didn't work, but it looked really cool, and it looked a lot like the stuff they were using in episode 5 of Star Wars back then. We called it Empire Strikes Back. But, planting seeds in kids, and we've had youth on the air talking about it here with Sterling. We've talked about all those things, and we're not going to go there, but it's really cool to see how you and I both started falling in love with this radio thing when we were children. And I just hope that we'll think about how that was for us, because we didn't have the technology we have now available to children. And everybody complains about their kids being on their phones all the time. Well, maybe we need to put a radio in their hand. And I'm just going to leave that there. You never know what you'll wind up with when you spur some interest, just like Julian got back in here when his mom made him cut the TV off. Cool story, by the way. I like that because I don't like television. So that's really cool. It's
I didn't know what she was doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my mom used to lock me outside of the house because I just wanted to sit inside and read. So she would take my books that I wanted to read and set them on the stoop at the back door, and then make me go outside and lock the door. She'd lock me out of the house, and I would sit on the stoop and read books while my brother was out terrorizing the neighborhood. So, we're all different. That's okay. It's about 5:00 in the afternoon in Finland, and it's about 9:00 in the morning here on the East Coast. So we appreciate you giving us your afternoon. It's been a long time coming, like I said, and we're stoked to have you here. Really enjoy your work on YouTube, and I didn't realize this. A lot of people make these massive productions and have these really expensive cameras and all sorts of things. Can you share with us a little bit about what you use to create your videos? Because I thought it was intriguing, and just want to let everybody know you don't have to have a studio to do something like that.
Well, actually, I use Android. Same thing I use for ham radio. I've got an Android tablet. Actually, I've got two of them. I've got the Google Nexus 9. That's a powerful tablet for editing video and audio and things like that. And then I have a rugged tablet, a waterproof tablet. It's a Samsung Galaxy Active whatever that I use for ham radio now. And my camera is a Samsung S4, a smartphone, and a couple of GoPros.
Nice.
And everything, yeah. I mean, I was using a laptop, but because, my whole thing is about portability, man portability.
Right.
And, if I'm hiking in Lapland, pulling, the trailer or doing something like that, there's no chance that I'm going to, carry a 3 or 4 kilo laptop with me just to do the video. I want to have the freedom and the mobility to edit or to make a video with my phone right then and there, or my tablet, and share that, on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever, with the people who watch the content that I create. So that was born out of a necessity for mobility. And I don't like to be tied into the constraints of iPhone or iPads. So I moved towards Android because it was already working for me for ham radio.
Very good, very good. A lot of people don't realize that it like I said, it doesn't take all of this stuff to make it happen, and that's really cool because you're able to do what you're wanting to do and need to do with what you have and making the best use of it. Which leads me to my next question. We've talked a little bit about this before. But I first found out about it on your site, on your page, keeping up with you and what you were doing. But the radar thing still is kind of, I'm not completely sold on the idea or necessarily understand everything about it. But you do a lot of radar activations. Can you kind of give us a salesman pitch on radar?
Well, I do radar from the preparedness perspective, yeah?
Okay.
Think of it like... and I hope the analogy isn't putting people off, but think about someone putting a gun to your head, giving you a QRP or some other type of low-power radio, and telling you to go there and make your contacts, make 5 of them in whatever mode you want to, and then you'll have to move. So it's and move if you're hiking or on some human-powered. Walking or hiking or in a canoe or whatever, I think it's you have to move 1 kilometer.
Okay.
5 more contacts and do it again. So that's actually horrific at 65 degrees north, But radar is all about, at least for me, radar is about putting the gun to your head, giving you the minimal gear that is required to make the contacts that you want to make, and doing that, in whatever conditions happen to be, whether it's raining or like a couple of weeks ago, we had this radar challenge for April. It was freezing rain. It It was cold, it was wet, and I had to, fashion myself a go kit in the morning to protect my radios and things like that. So it's really about, taking you out of the pot and throwing you into the fire in regards to ham radio. And, it's pretty easy to sit comfortably in one's ham shack and say, okay, I'm an experienced operator. But you really don't know how experienced you are until you're outside of the ham shack, out of the comfort of, the bosom of one's home.
Right.
So that's what radar is about for me. It's about, getting out there, getting your skills, seeing what you can achieve when you have nothing. You're just, I don't know how else to say it. You've got nothing. You have nothing but your skills and your wits, and your radio. And you put them to the test. You learn from that, and the next time around, you do it again.
Yeah, it's really cool, I think, especially in your conditions. You're out there with the dogs and the snow, and, I could see here in the deep south, it would be mosquitoes and rain and, bad weather. So, but I like it. And again, guys that are listening who aren't interested at all in anything like that, we understand. I don't like to sweat, so I probably wouldn't be doing a radar activation in the middle of July. But it's just always intriguing to me to find out about these other types of operations that people enjoy doing. And sometimes you have to wonder, wow, do they really enjoy putting themselves there? Like Stuart climbing a mountain to talk on the radio, or someone flying across the Atlantic so that they can go activate an island somewhere in the middle of nowhere. That's the coolest thing I think about amateur radio. And if we could figure out a way to market this thing that you can go here or there, you can even stay at home and do this kind of thing. It's so broad based, and it makes it a really cool hobby.
There's a SOTA expeditions. There's radar. There's actually, I guess what I want to say is you can take ham radio and make from it whatever you want to. There are these guys who do these incredibly difficult summits in SOTA. And then there's guys like me who, want to go out when it's minus 10, minus 20, or in the freezing rain with radar. But the point I tried to make is it's all about the learning.
Yeah.
You learn so much more when you're put in the situation which most amateur radio operators would, avoid at all costs. You learn a lot about yourself and about your equipment and how to make use of your gear in these various situations.
And gear is something we'll be talking about, I'm sure, as the call progresses. But, I've always just wondered, what does it take to do that? And, it's just like you said, the summits are just like the islands. It's just something that some people want to challenge themselves with. And what does a man like me do besides sit over here with my big thumbs up and say, get it, boys, y'all are doing a great job. It's really cool to learn about all these things, and we're going to be learning more as we continue here with Julian. We'll be back in just a moment. His call is Oscar Hotel 8 Sierra Tango November. You may know him as the Survival Tech Nord on YouTube, and we're going to continue to learn about him and what he's doing online right after this.
Hi, Dan, KB6NU here. Whether you're studying for your tech license or looking to upgrade to general or extra, you should check out my no-nonsense amateur radio license study guides. Written in my easy-to-understand, no-nonsense style, they really are the easiest way to learn what you need to know to pass the test. And they are always up to date. The PDF version of the Technician Class Study Guide is free on my website at kb6nu.com/podcast, and all my study guides are available in print, PDF, Kindle, and EPUB versions. Let me help you have more fun with ham radio. Go to kb6nu.com/podcast and get started today.
We're back with Julian. We call him Survival Tech Nord around here. We love his videos on YouTube, and of course, we'll have all of those linked to his YouTube page as well as his website and whatnot in the show notes of episode. I believe this will be number 77, I think. Anyway, we'll have all of the show notes listed at hamradio360.com. I want to refer you there all the time, and it's not just because we want traffic on the website, which is great, but everything we talk about in this program will be linked there, as well as everything we've covered over the last 3 years and more are linked there as well. So if you're looking for something, there's a search bar. We have a podcast player. There's a workbench page. There's a link to the forums. I want to encourage you always to go back to hamradio360.com. That's where we live, and that's where you can find us. Now, we're finished talking about us because Julian's here with us from the other side of the world, and we're having a great conversation about what he's doing in the field. And he's also creating content, which is always cool. I love these content creators because I'm one myself, and we got to stick together, right? So, Julian, tell us a little bit about making content for YouTube and what kind of pushed you into wanting to become an amateur radio content creator in that sort of fashion with video.
Actually, Kel, most of the content that I saw, or a lot of the content that I saw on YouTube, was boring. It was informative. Mm-hmm. But it was boring. It just didn't excite me. It didn't, I sat there and I would watch some of this and think to myself that, there has to be a better way than the way that we've always done it. And I thought to myself, well, let's see what we can do. And I started off, actually, I even remember the first video. I believe it was someone made a video called Get Started with APRS for $30. It was something like that. Mm-hmm. And the way that it was done was just, from my perspective, not wrong, but, there's always a better way, And I simply wanted to offer an alternative, and that video went viral. Now, that's not the reason I got started into YouTube, but it showed me that people were starving for a different perspective on things. And I have been into that's just one example. There was other examples from the survival perspective or preparedness perspective. Lots of people promoting biofang radios and saying this is the best radio you need for prepping and for survival and things like that. And these content creators were simply promoting the idea of buying your way into preparedness. And that sat extremely wrong with me because, I simply believe that it's not about the gear you have so much. It's about the skills that you have and your ability to use that gear, like I said in the last segment, with the gun to your head. You can't just go and tell someone who is, wants to put their life in a radio's hands. You just can't say to them, that I want to use ham radio for preparedness or for disasters or whatever, and what do I need to buy? That's the wrong question. The question starts with what skills do I need? And it just kept growing and growing and growing from there.
So it could be the Skill Technician Network instead of Survival Tech Nord.
Well, the Survival Tech Nord is there's a twist behind that name. Their survival aspect it's just promoting, and the old school guys will get this, it's promoting this old school survival skills or survivalism aspect. And the tech, it doesn't necessarily mean ham radio. It means that, you're good with a soldering iron. You're good with, you can fix things. You are, what do I want to say, Cal? You can sustain your gear. I'm missing the words in English, Kel.
Yeah. Oh, I get what you're saying. You can maintain and protect and keep your stuff going in case if you have a failure. You don't have to go buy something in its place. You can fix what you have.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. So survival, technology, and we're up here in the north, so that's the.
I get what you're saying about. Someone doing it a different way. And, we all have our take on everything and what and how we like it. I didn't realize that was where your channel started. The funny thing about that is, Kel not being the YouTube guy, going back to my quest for APRS, I saw that original video you're talking about. And then I found your reply, which was very kind and very well done. And I didn't realize that was the genesis of your channel. I had no idea. That was some really cool history. And like I said, I'm not the YouTube guy, and everybody here knows it. But I did not realize that I had been there at the birth of the channel. That is really awesome, man. So you do it your way, and we all enjoy it. Of course, there may be people that like someone better, their presentation better than mine, and that's okay, because it's a great big world and a great big hobby. But tell me, when you decided, hey, I like this video went viral, I think I could do some more of this, where did you go from there? How did you decide about your topics and the things you wanted to teach about or to learn about along with your audience?
Well, that was easy. Man-portable communications for disasters, emergencies, survival, and so on. I mean, that's my life. That's what I do.
Right.
Putting myself out there, and I'll give you an example. 2 years ago now, I did a expedition to Lapland, to a specific grid square in Lapland that I'd been to before, but never hiking. So I built myself a hiking trailer, which failed. You can see that on YouTube. But I built myself a hiking trailer, a solar panel. I took the 817 and an Android tablet with a couple of different antennas, and I went and I just activated this place. And that's the whole thing. I needed to prove to myself that outside of the shack, away from the towers, away from the Yagis, in the thick of it, I didn't know what would happen. Would it be rain? Would it be sleet? Would it be snow? I didn't have any idea how it was going to turn out. But just to get out there and show people what you can do with a minimal amount of gear.
That's always intriguing to me, because that's something I've never done, even to the point where I don't have the minimal amount of gear to go out and operate, because I don't have a portable rig until now. I've got the KX2 from Elecraft that just came in a couple of weeks back, and that's kind of what I'm planning for my spring and summer this year, is to go out and learn about how to operate away from the shack, away from the power supplies, away from the air conditioning here in the shack. So, I'm not the survival guy. I'm not trying to go out and conquer the world on my own, but I am intrigued, like you say, how and what can I do to perform and make the gear that I have on hand work for me if I don't have the infrastructure surrounding me at all times. It's an intriguing kind of premise.
Well, and there's something behind it. And again, goes back to these YouTube videos. We often make a huge, we should differentiate between emergency communications and disaster or survival communications. Because, for example, in some cases, you may very well be a refugee. There may have been a tornado, for example. Or an earthquake, and all of your grid-tied systems are knocked out, are gone, or the foundation on your home is cracked, or your home is unsafe, your tower has fallen. There's 1,000 different things, chemical leak. For some reason, you have to move. So having the skills to utilize minimal gear in the field, again, in the worst of conditions, that's what it's all about. That's going to show you where your skills really are. Anybody, or I don't want to say anybody, but it's possible. It's a lot easier inside a ham shack than it is doing it from the side of a road in a ditch. That's what's behind the whole thing.
Yeah, that's your niche that you really, really feel comfortable in, which is probably where 80 to maybe even 90% of us out here don't feel comfortable. Maybe 60% of us don't feel comfortable there where you are, which is probably a good reason for us to get our stuff out and operate it in that fashion. I hear a lot about disaster communications and whatnot, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in the next segment when we discuss gear, but when you think about disaster comms, are you thinking CW, PSK31, RTTY? Where are you at there? What do you use? What's your favorite mode of communication when you're out with the stuff in the middle of nowhere?
Well, that's a trick question. The truth is, you have people who say, you should learn CW and you should be, CW for survival and this and that, and digital modes. Everyone knows that digital modes are my favorite operating mode. But actually, the truth is, you need to be proficient in everything. You need to learn CW. You need to learn how to use digital modes. You need to know which digital modes are effective at lower power levels, or you know what I mean. And For example, I did a video last week or 2 weeks ago where I clearly failed with my voice communications. Clearly, because I don't practice them enough, and that's a skill that will. That you lose if you don't practice. So you need to learn everything. You need to be proficient in CW, even if it's slow. You need to do it. Digital modes, voice, whatever. And that's not a diplomatic answer. That's the cold hard truth.
Right. Because it is a very vast hobby and it is so broad, I can understand why that makes sense to have proficiency in every fashion. Even if you're not very proficient, you still need to be practicing to become proficient, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I got you. Okay. All right, we're gonna break here. We'll be back in just a moment. We're talking with Julian, Survival Tech Nord from YouTube. His call is Oscar Hotel 8 Sierra Tango November, and we'll continue this on right after this here on Ham Radio 360. So in case you missed it, Elecraft just released another amplifier, and this time it's the beast, right? It's the Elecraft KPA 1500 watt solid state amplifier, 160 through 6 meters. It's got a built-in antenna tuner. This thing is beautiful, as you might imagine. I mean, Elecraft is all about elegance in radio. If you need some extra power, you need to check out the brand new Elecraft KPA 1500. That's the 1500 watt solid state amplifier, 160 through 6 meters. And you can find more information about it, even ordered yours as well, at elecraft.com. We're back with Julian. His call is Oscar Hotel 8 Sierra Tango November. We call him Survival Tech Nord on YouTube, and having a lot of good times here with him. Finally, we've worked on having him come on the program for a long time, and we're really excited, Julian, to have you here. Thank you again for being with us.
It's my pleasure, Cal.
Yeah, and we're talking around the world from South Carolina to Finland, and Julian just told me that he, as well, is on a hotspot, 4G-connected hotspot. So we're around the world on this internet thing through our cell phones, which is pretty cool, actually.
Actually, we're talking over RF, if you really think about it.
If you break it down, you're exactly right. There you go. I'll put the QSL card in the mail. I'm just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Nobody send me any dirty emails. I'm just kidding. Hey, one of the favorite segments of our listeners, and of course ours here as well, with our guests, is when we can talk about gear and what they're using to implement whatever they're doing, whether they're in the shack or they're out in the field. Now, if people watch your videos, of course, they know that you have a radio of choice and that you have a tablet of choice. There may be some folks here who have never watched one of your videos before, and they're curious, what does he use when he does these crazy radar expeditions in the middle of a driving snowstorm or in the sleet or something? So, Julian, we all want to know, what are you taking with you when you go out in the field?
You'll never believe it. Actually, I'm kind of a Yaesu junkie. I've broken it down to the most minimal gear that I could imagine, and that's the good old Yaesu FT817ND, and this is my third one. I was stupid enough to have sold the first two and found myself with another one. But the Yaesu FT817ND, that's my radio of choice, because most of the time, 99.9% of the time, I'm a QRP operator. And most people actually, I don't think they would have known that about me. I'm always working QRP. And there's a reason behind that, if I might just explain it.
Sure.
I think that if you can get your comms on with 5 watts or less, then when you've got 20 watts or 50 watts or 100 watts available to you, you're a much better operator. So that's what's behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have a 20-watt FT897 or one of these fabulous ICOMs. But, of course, they're bigger and heavier and, more difficult to power and things like that. So, yeah, I broke it down to the 817, and I'm still happy with that. But my next radio, well, you could ask me about that if you want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think the next radio is the KX2.
You'll like it.
Are you kidding?
It's sweet, man. It is really, really sweet.
I mean, I know it's not as rugged as the 817, but I mean, the mobility, it's so small, and wow. Yeah. Now, I know many of the people who follow me are going to say, what are you talking about, Julian? I mean, but yeah, I need to. I don't want to get rid of the 817. Don't get me wrong, but I need to add the KX2 to the arsenal.
It's an incredibly, surprisingly small, but just what's the word to use? Maybe elegant.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I'm looking forward to learning how to use it, as well as learning how to do QRP and all the fun things that you do, just minus the snowstorm.
Well, the snow's not that bad. It's the rain that kills you.
Oh, yeah. I imagine. So you take the 817 everywhere you go. I mean, I think I just saw it the other day. You had it strapped on a chest rig. You were doing literally doing man-portable operations. Tell me about that, man, because, I grew up in the 80s, and we had the G.I. Joe comic strip, and everybody wanted to be Breaker and have a backpack radio. How do you do backpacking radio with your 817? Because that's just really cool to me.
Well, actually, this is something that I'm just learning for the channel. So, everything that you see on the channel, I learn it first offline. If you follow on Instagram or my blogs, you would know that already. People would know that before a video comes out. So I'm always doing the learning, and I share that learning outside of YouTube. So the first test was with a popular pouch. It's a sling pack. And I put the 817 in this sling pack messenger style bag with a battery pack, a lithium ion battery pack made from 18650 batteries. And I strapped the super antenna MP1 across my back with the sling. And I had a drop pouch, a magazine pouch, pouch. For the drag line. So, when I was walking, I just pulled the drag line out of the drop pouch, threw it behind me, and reached over my shoulder to tune it up for the band that I'm working on and fire away. That was the first one. The second test was the one that you're talking about. So I took a 3-day assault pack, a Marine Corps 3-day assault pack, and I mounted the MP1. I'm going to try all the different antennas that I have. But I put the MP1 on the backpack, and I mounted with carabiners the FT817 to my chest rig, between the straps on my back, and ran what was it, RG117, I guess it was. To the tuner and then to the back of the antenna because it's QRP, so it can handle that power. And I took a walk out there by the sea where I usually make the videos, and I made contacts with Lima Zulu and 4 X-ray, Golf Zero, Delta Lima. I forget where in Germany, but and one PSK. Contact while man-portable also with Italy.
Now, that's really cool. So you were using, I'm assuming, because we haven't gotten there yet, but you were using some sort of Android device to connect to your 817 to do PSK.
Yeah. Well, okay, I've acquired this new Android device. It's a Samsung Galaxy Tab Active, and it's waterproof. It can stay underwater, what was it, 1 meter or 2 meters of water for up to 30 minutes.
Oh, my.
And we've already tested it during the last radar event in the freezing rain. It doesn't freeze or die in the rain. So I use a device that many people see on the channel called a Woofy Link. And the Woofy Link is just a tiny little interface that's designed to connect your, I think it does ICOM and the FT series. So it connects your portable QRP rig to your Android device. You know, the Android devices, they have a TRRS connection, a 4-pole connection with mic and speaker on the same connector. Mm-hmm. So you need this 4-pole connector. And the Woofy Link takes care of audio levels and the push-to-talk for the rig through the Android device.
That's a pretty amazing little rig, and it's maybe the size of a pack of cigarettes.
Oh, it's smaller.
Yeah, I mean, it's tiny.
Yeah, it's about the size of a small. Remember these wooden matchboxes?
Oh yeah.
The small one's about the size of an old Hot Wheels car from the 70s. You know?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's small. Yeah.
So you just run that in line between the Android and your 817 and your man-portable PSK31 contact.
Sure.
That's
or
awesome.
JT65 or RTTY or, any of the modes that are supported on Android.
Now, I've never operated man-portable before, so this may be just the most ridiculous question you've ever heard in your life, but I'm going to ask it in full transparency here. I have no idea. When you're operating man-portable and you make a contact, whether it's digital or, voice, do you stop walking because you're right in the sweet spot of that contact, or do you just keep plugging away and walking up the side of the coastline there? Because I know the reason I ask that question is because living way down here in the country, I can go out on the grounds here and I can make a contact through the repeater, and I can walk from the house to the barn, and the guys are like, "Hey, stop moving, just stand still and talk for a minute," because it it flutters, it goes back and forth, picket fence or whatever we want to call it. Is it the same way when you're man-pack portable operating HF?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason I'm laughing about this is because the operator from Lima Zulu said, "What is that crunching sound behind your voice?" And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck is he talking about? Right. What crunching sound? And I realized it was the snow. I do stop now when I make a contact, not with PSK. Right. Because they'll never know. They never hear the ambient noise. Yeah. They only hear the audio from the tablet. But with the phone and with the CW, I just totally failed with that one. There was operator fatigue. There was too many tasks that I had to focus on. So I think for the time being, to sit down and stop, sit down and operate, and then get on the road again. Yeah. Excellent.
Well, that's just something that came to me there. Thank you for answering that, what seemed to be a ridiculous question, but I guess it did have merit. So you've got the active tabs. I've noticed that some of the things that you do, you actually utilize like what we would call here a burner phone, something that you'd buy very inexpensively, Android, load up some software on it, and it works with either your handy talkie or your HF rig.
Yeah, well, okay, you have to be careful. There are some cheap phones that you can use. The main requirement is that 4-pole connection I talked about a little while ago. Okay. Yeah, because lots of these cheap burner phones or tablets, they have just an external microphone and a speaker output. They don't have a speaker input.
I got you.
So that's really the only requirement, is that you have a speaker in and out on that TRRS connection.
Is there any way to determine that? Have you found a cheat to get around to say, hey, this one does, this one doesn't, don't use this one, try that one kind of a thing? Is there any way we can determine that, find that out?
Well, I tried that back in the day, was it last year? But unfortunately, our friends in Southeast Asia, they put out so many different phones that you can never keep up with it.
So you found very good success with the Samsung products, which most everyone would expect, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm using the Samsung Galaxy S4, which is quite a few years old now. And it also worked with the Samsung Galaxy Tab series, the Note series. I have that one as well. And the Nexus 9, and now the Nexus 9 from Google, and now the Samsung Galaxy Tab Active, which also isn't a new tablet. But for the most part, yes, the Samsung, Google Nexus, HTC, what's this? I don't know how to pronounce this new Chinese company that's Huawei or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how to say that either.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but so far I've tested those and they've been pretty good. But the thing that we have to remember is that most people are carrying a mobile phone or tablet of some sort anyway.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to use a different phone or tablet for ham radio. I mean, I'm talking to you actually on the ham radio. I mean, the tablet that I use for the ham radio. For ham radio, I'm talking to you on that right now.
Nice. And one of the things that we kind of failed to remember here is that, especially as an Android user, these things are out there that are very easy to get a hold of, to get installed on your device. What are some of your favorite softwares that you have, or apps, I guess we have to call them since it's on the phone? What are some of your favorite apps?
Droid PSK.
Raise your hand if you don't have that installed. Oh, yeah, there's nobody that doesn't have that one installed. That is a great app.
Yeah, Droid PSK, and then I would have to say APR's Droid.
Mm-hmm. Another good one.
Yeah. And I'm a little bit disappointed with this third one because it's not being actively developed, but it's and FL MSG, so the FLDG Android variant.
Yeah, that kind of came and went real quick, didn't it?
Yeah, and, well, what can I say? Actually, if you don't mind, is it possible to talk a little bit about Android and ham radio?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I'd like to just throw this out there that, we have excellent tools on Windows and on Linux, and I believe even on Mac OS or whatever it's called these days. But one thing that people forget is Android is actually the most portable operating system that we have today. And not actively developing ham radio apps for Android is almost blasphemy. Android OS, we need to get developers to actively develop for Android OS. And we need to convince ham radio operators that everything shouldn't be free, that it's absolutely okay for a developer to charge $5 or $10 for an app, which, otherwise we wouldn't have the mobility that app affords us.
Right.
So I'm really pushing hard for developers to create new apps for Android, and well, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of, and I understand the numbers because as an Android guy, I don't think a whole lot about the Apple user because I'm not an Apple user. You go and look at the stats for the podcast, it's 26-1 Apple user versus an Android user. And that's quite a jump, But at the same time, there's a lot of guys out there who are using Android tablets to operate particular things with their amateur radio gear because of the push to talk and the Bluetooth connection as well that Apple doesn't afford. And not only that, you have people who are using the cheaper Windows tablets to utilize the full FLDigi software. So there's a lot out there to be done. And like you say, we have to be able to invest back into our hobby. And
That's right.
Not like I don't understand. We have this mentality that's just getting stronger and stronger every day, where everything has to be free, and it doesn't matter that it costs the man 600 hours to develop this app. We still want it for nothing. So here. And I would do the same to encourage further development as well, because, I'm an Android user, but at the same time, like I say, it's very easy to use. You don't have all the red tape that you have to go through to create an iOS app and get it in, approved by them. You can just go out and make it work. So very good points. Very good points.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, we're going to break right here, but we're going to come back and we're going to chat with Julian some more about being the survival tech nerd on YouTube, as well as operating outdoors in the midst of the raging storm way up north. Back in a few minutes here on Ham Radio 360 Podcast. Last year, the world was shocked when we got these really nice one-sheet flyers at Hamvention from Kenwood. It was teasing us about the DH74 tri-band D-Star APRS enabled handy talkie. Now, I can be very honest with you to tell you, I know nothing about what's going to happen this year at Hamvention with Kenwood. But I can tell you this. If they release a great product and you're looking for someone to buy it from, my friends' main trading company, mtcradio.com, has everything from Kenwood at the best prices online. Give them a call today, mtcradio.com. And we're back with Julian here on the Ham Radio 360 podcast. Again, make sure you visit hamradio360.com to check out all the show notes as well as mentions and probably some video links there as well. Julian is a YouTube content provider, and we're really appreciative of that. I really cannot wait till they get the lines down here so I can watch YouTube a lot more often from the comforts of my own home than I do now. But creating content is one thing. But you also have a passion about sharing with others the realities of utilizing what you have, and not only just using what you have, but knowing how to use what you have. And I think that's one of the driving forces behind what you're doing, if I'm not mistaken, Julian.
Absolutely, Kel. A lot of people ask me, what radio should I get? And, they're always concerned about the gear. Mm-hmm. And the gear is cool, the gear is fun and everything, but I'm always trying to stress the fact that we need to focus on the skills. So whether you have, the Yaesu FTX 1000 MP or if you have a Yaesu FT817 or the KX2, no matter what you have, you need to be able to be proficient with it. You need to be proficient with it. You need to develop your skills and know how to communicate, because at the end of the day, ham radio exists for emergency communications. Whether we like it or not, regardless of what we do, we're here as the backbone of emergency communications if the need arises for us to do so. Right.
Yeah, and even to the point where, if all you have is a $25 walkie-talkie, handy talkie, I always say it wrong and that offends people. I'm not trying to, by the way. Knowing how to program it without, the manual or without a programming cable. It's something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be, dragging your gear out in the middle of a snowstorm or a tornado. Knowing what you have and knowing how to be able to manipulate it if you have to.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that as well. I mean, I'm not the squirrel chasing guy who buys every new shiny, but at the same time, I do rely a lot on my programming cables and having my manuals. I mean, I keep the manuals. If I have a mobile radio in the vehicle, then I have a manual with me in the mobile. And, some people call that lazy. Other people call it prepared or smart. I don't know which one you want to call it, but still, there's nothing like knowing how to go in your rig, programming a new frequency, selecting the correct repeater offset, and putting the right tone in it without having to look in your book.
That's right.
Yeah. Some of the things that you've learned, I mean, you've been licensed for almost 20 years now. Some of the things that you've learned that you want to share with a new ham or maybe somebody just kind of maybe getting the itch to try this portable stuff in your 20 years of experience and, of course, your life experiences that back that up as well. What are some of the most important things you could share with somebody?
I didn't see that coming, Cale.
That's why I get paid the big bucks.
Let me think about this for a moment. And the most important thing that I could share with anyone just getting into, especially young people, just getting into amateur radio is don't worry about buying thousands and thousands of dollars or euros or Canadian dollars or pesos worth of gear. Find your passion, get the gear that you can afford, and just work with it. If I buy a radio, I might keep that radio for 10 years, 15 years, Right. Even if there's a better radio on the market, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get rid of the old gear. So just get out there and try it with what you have. If that's your $25 radio or your $500 radio or whatever you can afford, just get out there and do it. And never mind what these people say, oh, you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. I mean, you can look at my logbook and you can clearly see that although I'm told every day I'm doing something wrong, apparently I'm doing something right because my logbook disputes those theories or facts, however you want to say it. So just get out there and do what you need to do with the gear that you have. And don't worry about pleasing other people or doing things right or doing things, wrong. Do them your way within the rules of amateur radio. And that's the best way to learn, You don't learn from watching or listening to other people tell you not to do something some certain way.
I think you made a very good point there, especially coming into the hobby as a new guy. Everyone wants to encourage you to hurry up and get on HF. Get your general or your upgrade licenses so you can get on HF. And yep. That's a lot of fun. There is a lot of credence to that argument. But at the same time, there may be someone who is just strictly 100% interested in chasing storms or following the bad weather, or maybe having a means of communications between his son and himself locally through a repeater system. I think you nailed it. Find out what you're in here for. And it's going to change too, because when I got into ham radio, I wanted HF capabilities to utilize near vertical instant skywave to be able to talk to people up and down the East Coast. Now I'm really interested in this APRS thing, digital modes, and doing some Arden stuff like that. So it's going to be fluid. So don't just kind of invest yourself in one place. Make sure you're looking at everything, because it is so big and there's so much out there. You might get to the point where you just want to control your drone with your amateur radio privileges. Who knows?
It's true. That's true. Yeah. I'll tell you something, Cale. When I started my ham radio career, I was into VHF and SHF communications. So, my tower is still set up for weak signal work on VHF, and I had no interest in HF communications at that time. Right. Most of the time, because people kept telling me that I need to get on HF. And that may have been true, but I wanted to push the limits. I wanted the technical challenge. I have a telephone. I didn't want to... I didn't want it to be too easily building an amplifier and building my Yagis and getting a 40-meter tower, or Yeah. I wanted the technical challenge of weak signal work on VHF. And later on, that evolved. Now I'm doing weak signal work on HF, and
walking around with stuff in your backpack, crunching in the snow, talking to Germany.
That's right.
Which is really cool. I think that was one of the highlights of the conversation here, is learning how you're going out and making do with what you have, and even limiting yourself. Like you said, you're not buying every brand new rig that hits the market. Your rig of choice currently has been around for quite some time. A lot of people discount it because there's later model rigs, but you're proving that by using what you have and making the best of what you have, that's what you need. And to me, I think we could all learn from that. And I don't remember when society changed. It had to be in the 90s sometime, because it was between being a kid and supposed to being a man here. And things started to change. You know, my parents bought their first washing machine when they got married, and it was still going when I graduated high school. You know, Now we just buy a new one every 5 years because we have to. It used to be, hey, our products are great and we're going to make them last till you die. And now the slogan is, our products are great and here's a brand new one that you need to buy to replace the one you bought yesterday. So I like your perspective there. I think it makes sense, especially in this hobby when everyone appears to be so frugal.
Yeah. I don't want cheap. I want quality.
Right.
And that's one of the things that drives it. You know, if the very first thing you look at is the price of the equipment you want to buy, then how will you ever know that equipment meets your requirements?
Yeah, that's a very good question to ask, because, and you know, as great as the low cost handhelds are for being like an introduction to the amateur hobby for a lot of people, at the same time, I think that kind of spoils the view of what amateur radio is, because not everything costs $25.
That's right.
And it's quite shocking to some people when they realize, well, this, HF rig is $1,300. I could buy, 223 different bow things for that. But it's all about what you're looking to get out of the hobby. I mean, you don't go and buy a two-wheel drive pickup truck with a 5-speed manual transmission. If you have, let's say, one leg and you live in Finland, you need a 4-wheel drive. And if you only have one leg, you probably need an automatic. I'm not knocking people with one leg. I'm just trying to make an example here of you need to buy the gear that's going to fit what you're looking to do in the end.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know where the one-legged thing came from. I couldn't figure out why a man wouldn't need a 5-speed, because I love changing gears, and my wife absolutely abhors it. That's okay. Julian, man, it's been really cool to have you here, and thank you for kind of getting out of your comfort zone, standing behind the camera, shooting those great videos you make for us as we all continue to learn about ham radio through your Survival Tech Nord channel. Can you real quick just give us the address to your channel so that we can get there easily if we don't want to wait to go back to the show notes?
Yep, youtube.com/user/Survival Tech EU. So Survival Tech Echo Uniform.
Excellent. And we'll have all these links. I will ask Julian to forward some really cool stuff after we get off the call here. But, man, thank you. I know it's probably getting to be supper time, or maybe dinner if you call it that in Finland, over that way. And we just appreciate you having come on with us and sharing some of your experiences with us, and hope to have you back on again.
Actually, I've had a blast, Cale. I really have.
It's always fun on this show, man. We have a good time no matter who it is and what we're talking about. But learning about what others are doing in the hobby is really what we're focused on here. And you've definitely got a cool perspective, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Cale.
I am so excited to have made that call. I mean, I have really, really been on Julian about getting on the show. He's a video guy. He's not really an audio guy, which is kind of funny, because for me, the video is something that I'm like, not interested in. He loves the video. So thank you so much, Julian. Really appreciate you being here, man. All the knowledge you shared with us. I want to again encourage you to check out his YouTube channel. We'll have it linked there in the show notes, as much as I can get into the show notes about the things that we discussed. I want to encourage you as well to get out and get on the air. Springtime's coming. We've had some crazy weather in the nation over the last week. I mean, blizzard conditions in the Midwest flyover country, tornadoes in Texas, and it's just been rain and kind of weird around here in the deep south. So stay aware of what's going on. Keep your HTs charged, right? So you can have your handies if you need them. And maybe start paying a little more attention to the weather if that's not your thing, because it may come to the point that you can help somebody with your ham radios and weather alert, right? So stay safe and stay tuned, because we have a lot more great programming coming your way. Jeremy and George will be back next week, and it might be the flea market show for Hamvention. I'm not sure yet, but I want to tease it a little bit, because our Hamvention shows are coming right as we get ready to go together from California, Ohio, and the deep south here in South Carolina to converge with you and all of our other amateur radio friends there at the new location in Xenia for Hamvention. It's going to be cool. I'm totally stoked about it and cannot wait to get to see you. All right, Anyway, hey, don't forget T-shirts are available if you're looking for one, and they're on the website, hamradio360.com. I'm out of here. God bless every one of you. Thank you so much for listening. 73, y'all.
Thank you for listening to the Ham Radio 360 podcast, brought to you by Main Trading Company, Paris, Texas, and by Elecraft.com, hands-on ham radio. To learn more about the show, visit our website, hamradio360.com. 73s, y'all.
Yeah, so everybody liked the post show comments, and it was kind of funny. Honestly, I am totally unaware of this, but our Canadian friends, they must not have a lot of love coming their way, because I heard from more of my Canadian ham friends this time than I've ever heard in almost 3 years of podcasting. Seriously, I did. I got a lot of notes, and thank you for all of them. It was really cool to hear from you, and just really stoked that you guys up there enjoying the show. Now, I know it's just not Canadians that listen to the program as well. We have people all over the world who have called in, sent emails back in the past. You know, I've shipped these antenna analyzer boards all over the world, literally. And by the time this airs, they may be out of stock again. And if so, I know George is bringing some to Hamvention, and so don't sweat. We're not going to quit making them. The diodes are getting hard to find. But that's not what this is about. This time is your time, and I want to come up here and say thank you very much to Brian, Whiskey 4, Bravo, Romeo, Yankee for your note there and email. Larry, Larry is one of our Canadian friends that came in here. Victor Alpha 3, Lima Hotel X-Ray. Thank you, Larry. We have Rod, Victor Echo 3, Romeo Hotel Fox, and his daughter. Congratulations, by the way, Emma. Hey, by the way, Emma was also featured on a past episode of Ham Nation, which is really, really awesome. You know, that they haven't even asked me to come on. Wow. Thanks. Emma, congratulations on your ticket and being on Ham Nation. Her call is Victor Echo 3, Echo Hotel Tango. And then Ed came in with an email. Thank you so much, Ed, for your note. Delta 5, Lima Papa. Ed said, hey, man, it's not called RMS Express anymore. It's called WinLink Express. And sure enough, it is. I guess we're still used to calling it RMS Express. So I guess maybe it's kind of they're maybe transitioning the title of the program there. He had some great comments on the program that we did about, Brett and I did about the WinLink stuff. So I've been watching some forums, and I've seen a lot of action pick up, people talking about WinLink since that last program. So I know that you guys had to enjoy it because you're out there doing it. So thank you so much again. Really, sincerely, I just appreciate you and dig you guys listening to our program. It makes it worthwhile for us to sit here behind these microphones, to do the Skype calls, to do the post-production, to get it all done and get it out there for you. We sincerely appreciate you. We think about you and just hope you guys have an awesome day, right? God bless you. I'll see you next time. 73, y'all.